We got another big Sharks trade update as the fourth period has put out their list of top targets, and Mario Ferraro has been linked to multiple teams, including the Ottawa Senators. We got to dive into what Mike Grier may do with Mario Ferraro. We also got to talk about the upcoming draft, and a certain top prospect is making waves for scoring 50 goals in 50 games. And I know we all want a defenseman as Sharks fans, but we got some very interesting stats to back up our claims here. We got to dive into a bunch of great stuff coming up on this episode of Sharks Digest. But to start this off, guys, one simple thing. Just wanted to say thank you for 1,000 subscribers. The support's been unbelievable. This channel's basically brand new. It's like a month old, and you guys have helped us hit this mark so fast. So just a sincere thank you for being here, sharing on this ride with us. It's been amazing. Mark, let's get right into the video. And I want to talk about this draft coming up. Now, look, the Sharks right now, it's no secret. We are number one in draft lottery odds, 25.5% to land number one. And I know a lot of Sharks fans have one guy on their mind, and that's Matthew Schaefer, that defenseman who looks like he could very well go number one. But there's a certain guy right there near the top. And if the Sharks don't get the number one pick, say they do take Schaefer if they get number one, still, there's about a 75% chance the Sharks land 2 or 3 or 4. And there's a certain name of Michael Misa that is making the rounds. And this is more if the Sharks don't get Schaefer that we're talking about this. However, even if Schaefer's on the board, you have to start to consider this. Right, he got 50 goals in 50 games. And he scored again today, I think. Right, he got 51 goals now in 51 games. 106 points, leading the OHL in points per game, in points, in goals, in everything, basically. He has been unbelievable. What do you think about Michael Misa? Do you think there's any world where if him and Schaefer are both still on the board, Mike Grier goes for a guy like Misa over Schaefer? I know, scoring from the wing is not necessarily something we'd prioritize over someone who looks to be a stud defenseman in Schaefer, but I can't deny these stats.
I mean, the first thing is looking at this, Schaefer does seem like the best fit for this team. We know as Sharks fans that they need to add more defense. Yes, adding another left-handed defenseman, you have a pretty stacked left side. I mean, looking at Sam Dickinson, who's looking to join this team in the next year or two, adding another left-handed prospect, you would rather, right, yes, obviously. But adding more defensive prospects would be awesome. But with Misa, I think there is something quite special. I mean, just looking at this from Cam Robinson, of elite prospects, in the last 40 years, only 3 draft-eligible OHL players have clicked at above a goal per game. Eric Lindros, Patrick Kane, and John Tavares. With 50-50, Misa is on pace to be the 4th. I mean, looking at this, this could be a generational talent. Yes, you have some top-end talent. Celebrini as a franchise player. Will Smith, Eklund, these guys all will fit and be futures on this team. I think a defenseman would be the best bet, but I mean, if they took Misa, I wouldn't be upset, would you?
I mean, look, I'd be a little disappointed, but again, like we're talking in a world where the draft falls in weird ways. The draft lottery falls in weird ways. We know who we would want, but again, the mock drafts can change between now and end of season. We don't know about Schaefer's injury future. Probably going to be fine, but there's a few question marks around him, right? And in a world where Schaefer's off the board when the Sharks are picking, if we're picking second, third, fourth, someone like Misa is not crazy to think, in the future, this dude could play with Macklin Celebrini on a line. So just wanted to highlight this because we're looking towards the draft lottery now. The playoffs are out of reach for sure. And seeing these guys, seeing how good some of these seasons have been is, well, it's really enticing. And that's all just to say the Sharks are in a fantastic spot right now. But I want to move on to something a little more pressing, a little something that's a lot closer in the future. And that's the trade deadline. Now, there's a certain player on the Sharks that has been linked to other teams more than most, and that's Mario Ferraro. And in a recent article posted by the fourth period, where they list all their trade eligible players, the guys that are likely to get moved, at number 13, they have Mario Ferraro, and they have a few teams that are reportedly linked, and there's one that I want to start with focusing on, and that's the Ottawa Senators. And I found this very interesting because the Ottawa Senators decor, at first glance, you'd think this isn't really a fit for Mario Ferraro. However, Mario Ferraro brings a lot of edge to any team. Like, look, he's not going to be that, bona fide offensive superstar. We know that. He's going to rack up some hits. He's going to rack up some block shots. And he's the kind of guy that you want on your team come a playoff run for that physicality, right? And I think Ottawa, especially with their young-ish team, I mean, fairly young team who's looking to really start their perennial playoff push, if they can really get over that hump and stay in that playoff picture for multiple years, you want to start off good maybe this season by going after someone like a Ferraro just to see how that works on your team. And again, only 11 points in 57 games, but hey, he's a big guy. He's 117 hits, 81 shots, or 81 block shots, sorry. What do you think about Ferraro's fit on the Senators, Mark, specifically? Like, look, I don't know what the Sharks are going to get back for Ferraro, but it is interesting to me that even teams that at first glance don't seem like they'd be a natural fit for, the roster, we're still hearing that they're interested in. And that just tells me that there's maybe a bigger market than we might even think.
I mean, looking at the Sens, it is a weird fit. With this Sens from Shabbat, you're not going to dethrone these guys out of the top four. But if the Sens want to go on a deep run, if they want to add more leadership and an older guy than someone that's 23 currently on this team, if they want to add someone that brings more of a physicality edge, a guy that plays a playoff style hockey, I think Ferraro would fit this team. I mean, the biggest thing is, what do you get back in return? I know Josh Norris's name has been going around. I'm not sure if that makes sense unless the Sharks really want to hammer down another guy to bring into the top six to replace someone like Granlund, maybe. But we know the big thing is Mike Grier came out and said just a few weeks ago they're not going to make trades. They're not going to move a player for draft picks just for the sake of doing it. I think they're going to start looking at maybe bringing in some players, young players. The Sens have quite a few of these. The biggest thing with the Sens, seeing how well Brady Tkachuk's playing for Team USA, I think they know the window is opening or open for them to make a push for the playoffs, to make a push in the playoffs. I would not be shocked. But Josh, going back to the list, is there anyone else really on this team, or on this list that you think could be in on Ferraro, or maybe even another team?
I mean, like, I think it's fair that all those teams are in on him because, again, you look at that list of teams, they're teams that have either been perennial playoff teams or, teams that are currently near the top of the league, minus Ottawa, who we just discussed, right? Like, Winnipeg's right there at the top. Colorado has a cup recently, Tampa Bay. Yeah, we don't need to talk even anymore about that. But there was another article that I saw surfaced around, and I sent to you, and we got this right here. It was a Chicago Blackhawks site. And that to me, I found very interesting because the Blackhawks, it's not the first team that jumps to my mind when I think Mario Ferraro trade. I got to be honest. But, when we're looking at what Hawks fans want and what they need moving forward, something like a Ferraro, they seem to think fits. So, look, I don't know. I'm just saying, like they say here, if Davidson, their GM, is fine with sending a prospect and a pick over, the Hawks are still getting one of the more serviceable blue liners in the league who's been stuck playing for a bad hockey team. Yeah, speak for yourselves, Blackhawks fans. Look, I'm just saying, again, like I don't necessarily see why the Hawks would send a prospect in a pick over. But again, Mark, I think this just really comes down to the fact that Ferraro's value is maybe higher than we would tend to believe. Then again, like, look, obviously, I want to sell him for whatever we can get for him, which is probably going to be something decent. But hearing that teams like the Hawks and Senators, teams that don't seem like natural fits in terms of trade, versus someone like, I don't know, maybe a Colorado or a Tampa looking to bolster their bottom four on defense for a playoff push, like. I don't know. Like, I just like the idea that the fans are even talking about this, that there's rumors surrounding these teams making a move for a guy like Ferraro. And it's honestly making me very excited for this upcoming deadline.
And I mean, the biggest thing is looking at Ferraro. Yes, he does have 2 years left this year and next year. The big thing with him, teams are going to go after him because he's someone that's been around the league. He's a serviceable top four defenseman on a lot of teams, especially a team like the Chicago Blackhawks. And I mean, looking at with what the Sharks have, you have Sam Dickinson joining this team. They might draft another left-handed defenseman in this draft. It does seem like Ferraro's time is slowly dwindling on this team. Yes, you still need guys that can put up, not really points, but guys that can put up numbers on this team. Someone that's not 20 years old. You can't fill this lineup with 21, 22-year-olds. But I do think teams are going to be actively in on him. The Sharks could sell on him, go out, get some more draft capital. Maybe you try to get more first-round picks. I'm not sure if you can get this much for Ferraro right now. But it does open up room for Mike Grier to maybe go into free agent and say, hey, we have a boatload of money going into free agency. We have a new open spot because Ferraro's moved. Why don't we go out and, yes, a big name like Aaron Ekblad, someone like this, why don't we throw some money at them, start building? The Chicago Blackhawks are a little farther behind in their rebuild. I think the Sharks are way ahead of them with their current spot. So maybe they want to go out and get Ferraro. They're like, hey, it's kind of working for them. Let's go get him. We can give up draft capital, get this guy, and help the younger defensemen on their team grow.
Yeah, like, and again, like you said, he's a top four guy on a lot of teams. And these cup contending teams that we were just talking about, like on Ottawa, like you said, he's going to be that bottom pairing guy. You go to a place like Tampa, you go to a place like Colorado. I don't know if he's getting those like top pairing, even like high end second pairing minutes. He's probably not going to play 20 minutes most nights, right? So that's naturally going to lower his perceived value for these teams, even if objectively the value he brings is very high, as we all know. Like, you're probably not going to be eating 20 minutes if you play for a top end cup contender, but you never know. Again, it's all in the eye of the beholder. And right now it seems like there's a lot of eyes on Mario Ferraro, and we're going to keep you guys up to date on all the latest trade rumors, news reports here at Sharks Digest every single day. That'll do it for this video. But if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Sharks news, like we always say, hit the subscribe button. It's completely free. We got Sharks videos coming all season long. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.